once we figure out who we are in Christ and we adopt our identity and we're bold in it, it doesn't matter anymore. Where's my mom? Where's my protectors? How am I here? How is this happening to me? No discipline, no structure. I'm gone.
You had prayed, God, take this from me, whatever it takes. And you said 3 days later, I was in the back of a cop car. I just know, God, not like this.
Just not wanting to be something doesn't mean you won't become it. God's creating the character that he wants you to become so that you attract what you can actually withstand.
What's up, and welcome to the Brighter Side Podcast. This is episode number 6. I'm here with John Huffman. John is a guy that I've been honestly looking up to for a while. I went to an event of his here locally. He has a crazy story of kind of in the dumps to redemption, and I kind of say from like jail to the pulpit. So I'm excited to kind of walk you guys through John's story from kind of the dark side to the brighter side. Cool, I tie in the podcast a little bit here today. So before I kind of get into my questions, which I have a lot of them, and we've been having great conversation. Honestly, I just said, I wish we would have not been recording because he answered so many of my questions. We had great conversation already, but I was like to kind of let you give yourself sort of an intro. Yeah, man. And then I'm going to kind of dive into the questions I got. Man. So who is John Huffman according to John Huffman?
Yeah, man. I'm just, I'm just jumping off the plane or jumping off the mountain and building the plane on the way down, man. I'm figuring it out. But born right here in Naples, born and raised, grew up in Golden Gate City. Yep. When I was growing up, we used to call it the Golden Ghetto.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah. Just an adolescent, man. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, having fun. Back then, there was absolutely nothing to do but run from cops. So I ran from them often. And got in a lot of trouble. Got my life together around 25, man. And just tried to figure out what am I going to do with life. And the only thing that I really had as far as a career was construction, because that was really the only job I could get. So I just maximized the hours that I had in construction and built a construction brand. And in the process, been preaching and loving on people. And people, we were talking about it. People call me pastor now. And now I consult for businesses and group coach. And so, man, I do a little bit of everything, man. But people always say, find your lane. And I think I found my lane. And no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I just want to see life changed, man.
Right. So you said, how old are you now?
41.
You're 41, so 25 is kind of when things turn around. So I want to kind of dive into your childhood a little bit. So do you say you got in trouble? Was that like just kind of you were always a little hellraiser, or is there something that like affected that? Like what?
My mom was on drugs. I think she started messing around or falling off the wagon, or where it was evident around 10 or 11 years old. So in that, I had no discipline. Yeah. Right. So you give an 11-year-old boy that's been diagnosed ADD, no discipline, no structure. Yeah. I'm gone. Yeah. I was running the streets. So the only ones I was hanging out with were 15, 16-year-olds smoking weed and got involved in some gangs and things of that nature. And that's kind of where I found my home. That's where I found my affirmation and my family and things of that nature. Yeah, man. So I got in a lot of trouble, a lot of fights, a lot of possessions and things of that nature. Yeah. So, when would you say like, it kind of, I kind of lived the opposite, I was just like kind of I grew up in Kansas, not really. I mean, my parents, stayed together. I mean, they ended up getting divorced later on in life, but I mean, so it seems like, honestly, like I'm, like, how does that, how does that happen, or I guess, or like what I mean, did you know it was wrong? Like, did you know you were doing it? It just seemed like normal to you, I guess. Man, my mom's apologized for it, and I've told her I had fun. Yeah. The God's honest truth, I had fun. Yeah. I mean, I didn't like being in jail, obviously. But I mean, I knew what the heck I was doing. I knew I was wrong. I was making shortcuts. My little brother's an attorney. Yeah. He never got locked up. Yeah. So there's this cool story. There's these two brothers, one's super successful, one's in prison. They were adopted, split up, all this thing, and they got both these stories, and they came to him and says, why did you end up where you're at in life? And the brother that got in all the trouble said, didn't I just tell you my life? I had no choice. And then they went to the other brother and says, well, how did you get so successful? And he goes, didn't I just tell you my life? I had no choice.
Yeah, wow.
So they both had the same upbringing, different mindsets.
Yeah.
Either one of them thought they had a choice. One thought he had no choice but to succeed. The other one thought he had no choice but not to succeed.
Yeah, wow. It's like mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, all mindset, man.
So take me kind of through that, leading up, you get to jail. I mean, what's that?
We talked about, you were at my Mind Your Business event.
Yeah.
And I talked about the well, right?
Yeah.
And we used the story of Joseph and how Joseph was thrown in the well by his brothers.
Yeah.
And then he went to
Great story.
slavery, then prison, then ultimately walked into the vision in which God gave him.
Yeah.
And I talked about not dragging that well into different seasons in our lives. That trauma. When we're hurt, when we're, my first time I had Grand Theft Auto. And I was 11 years old, about to turn 12. And I was arrested and taken to the Fort Myers Detention Center. And I remember being stripped naked there. And they, when you're going to jail, they make you bend over and cough. All that stuff's real.
Yeah.
They sprayed me with lice spray in areas that I didn't have hair.
Yeah.
I was 11.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I remember just feeling devastated in that moment. And it's a moment that I never really forgot. And when I was teaching at Mind Your Business, when I was talking about the well, that was my well. Like, that was like, where's my dad?
Yeah.
Where's my mom? Where's my protectors? How am I here? How is this happening to me? Right? The cool thing is, after that event, a week later after that event, I had a pastor, inner city pastor, call me and say, hey, man, I'd love for you to come teach the kids at the juvenile detention center in Fort Myers.
Oh, cool.
So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I went back and I taught the kids. Revival broke out. The COs didn't know what was going on. The correctional officers, these kids are crying on their knees for God. Crying, bro. Wow. We're praying for them. We're all like, can I pray for them? They're like, they just never seen nothing happen like this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Long story short, as I'm leaving there, I'm just in awe of God. And as I'm driving, he said, would you have changed your well knowing what just happened right there? Because you just set so many kids free.
Yeah.
Because of the experience that you had.
Yeah.
They related to you.
Yeah.
And you probably just prevented so many kids from dragging their well into the next season of their life.
Yeah.
Would you change it now knowing that I was going to use it?
Wow.
And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, that's heavy. That's a heavy question.
Yeah. And because, it brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it now, but it's like, man, you know what? God still used my bad decisions and my mess ups for his glory. You know what I mean? And ultimately, kids' lives got changed.
Yeah.
That day. There was one kid going, Lord, whatever it takes, whatever, and that's a prayer that I prayed.
I was going to say, I've heard you say that on another podcast.
Yeah. And so I'm like watching that, I'm like, dude, this is freaking me out. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, if God, you can use my story and you can use my pain, my past, and my hurts and my trauma to free someone else, then so be it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I heard you say that on another podcast. You had said that I think if I give me a second, I might be able to quote it exactly. I think you said that you had prayed, God, take this from me, whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. And then you said 3 days later, I was in the back of a cop car. And you said, no, God, not like this, yes. Not like this though. Exactly. And so that kind of transitions me. So you end up in jail, right? And you're in jail for how long?
So I spent probably close to 3 or 4 years of my juvenile life in and out, 21 days, 6 months, 18 months. I got out at 18, had a child, lived fairly well. And then I did a couple stints, 9 months, 10 months, couple months here and there in the Collier County jail. But then I use the terminology, I became everything I ever made fun of.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that.
So again, I was always entrepreneurial, but the old Scarface saying, "Don't get high on your own supply." I did just that, and I'm not exempt, and we see it in life, man. Nobody's exempt from that stuff, bro. And the people that maintain, man, it's sad that they maintain because they could be doing so much more, but they're just doing that, maintaining. But yeah, around 24. Almost 25, man, is when I prayed that prayer. And then ended up in the back of a cop car.
Yeah. And then that's when when you said like you're kind of in and out, and then you did this, like what do you think was different about like the last time when you said, okay, all the other times you probably said, I'm going to get back on it. I'm done with that life and all this stuff. And, you kind of hear the saying. It's kind of like, I feel like it's almost like, it's not like weight loss, but it's like the same thing people say, I'm going to lose weight. And then, you get back to reality. It reminds me of that, obviously at a higher level, but like what stopped it from, all these other times that you didn't, to like leading you to where you're,
I use weight loss as an example in a lot of my stories and also in my coaching, because I was like, it's simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah.
Like we all know how to lose weight. Work out, eat right, eat less.
Yeah.
There's no magic pill.
Gosh, I know,
it's that easy.
It is so simple.
Or it's that simple. It's just not easy, right? What did it for me was when I was in jail or whatever, I always was like, oh, I'm going to do this differently. Right? I got caught this way. I'm going to do it differently. I didn't become the person I became. That's what scared me.
Yeah.
I became the person I swore I would never become. I promised I'd never be like my dad.
Yeah.
I promised I'd never be like my mother. And in that incident, the Holy Spirit showed me I was becoming both.
Yeah.
And it scared the bejeebies out of me, that knowing that all of my heart's desire, everything in me did not want to become that person, and I still became that person. That scared me.
Yeah.
Because what made me realize was just not wanting to be something doesn't mean you won't become it.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's true. I grew up not so similar, but like my mom, I say my mom was like popping pills before popping pills was cool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't at first because, I think it was sort of like an addiction that came because of like injuries. Like it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't it wasn't like, drinking or something where it's like, man, it was like this pain management, and then she got addicted. But I grew up with that. So I grew up seeing that. So like even to this day, I have like a fear of medicine. But like part of what you just said was like, there's a part of me, I think, that I still deal with that. It's probably like I need a psychologist or like, I don't know, a counselor or something. But, I'm like afraid that's going to like, when is that going to turn for me? Like how old was she when she started? And there's like, okay, like, take somebody that's completely normal.
Yeah.
And then something happens, something switches. And I think that's something that I still have a fear with. Like, I gotta take a Tylenol, and I'm like, do I need this? Do you really I just won't even take anything because of that fear. So it's like, maybe it was a good thing in some ways, but it's also like, sometimes I'm like, when am I going to turn into kind of like what you just said? Like, I'm never going to be that. Like, I think I still, in some parts, I'm getting a lot better about it, but I still struggle with that. It's like, it just doesn't, like it does something to you. I don't know.
Man, my mom relapsed after 10 years, and she was like that, kind of like that beacon of light for me, even in my mess, because she got sober before I did. And I remember dealing with that right there, like, oh man, I'm not exempt. When is it my turn? And I just think that's something that we always wrestle with, but that's where I find freedom in Christ as well. It's like, Lord, you know what I mean? I'm just going to put my faith in you, because if not, that loop never goes off.
Yeah.
It's just a loop, man. And you kill it and you're like, no, and then it's there. So, that's like, that saying, let go and let God, it's again, such a saying that everybody knows, but man, there's so much power to it as well.
Yeah. So you're 25, you're in jail, you're starting to like realize, so like you get out, like I want to kind of start like, when did you start saying, okay, hey, I'm going to start going down a different road, not how am I going to get away with it again, or try it this way, or if I just like, when do you like, you're in jail? Is this like a come to Jesus moment in jail?
In jail? No, not necessarily. I went to a program. So my mom wrote the judge a letter. My mom started a program called the Harvest Recovery Ministry. I run it now. And, She wanted to be able to sign off on people's letter. For people that get caught with substance abuse, they usually have to do so many AA or NA classes or things of that nature, some type of substance abuse class. She wanted to be recognized as one of those classes that probationees could go to and get signed off on and be recognized as class. So in that, she had to go in front of a board. My judge happened to be on that board. So when she wrote the letter to the judge, which judges don't read mommy's letters when they're 25, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
She wrote this judge a letter. He's seen her name and just recognized her from the week before, 2 weeks before, whatever it was. Picked it up to read about what he thought would have been about the program, but it was about her son. So when they were going to sentence me and I was going to plea out, he had a change of plans and really ticked the state attorney off because the state attorney wanted to give me 60 months. But he said, hey, I see that God's worked in your mom's life. Would you be willing to let God work in your life? And he gave me 5 years community control, which for lack of better terms is house arrest.
Okay.
And I got to go to this program called Teen Challenge, which it started off for teens, but now it's adult center. And man, that's kind of where God really met me. And just kind of told me I could go all in for him, and just started molding me. And I knew that my way didn't work. Like how me and you were talking before, like, like there's something inside of you that says there's something great. Yeah. I know that there's something. Like I've felt that since I was this big.
Yeah, same, dude.
I've just always felt it. So I was like, I'm just trying to get there. And then I'm like, well, I tried it my way. Like, this is yours. Like, my way ended up crackheaded in jail.
Yeah.
So I'm giving up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously, my way isn't freaking smart.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
So, man, I stayed there. I just fell in love with Jesus, man. There's an internship. After you do the year, you can do an internship. After 6 months, they asked me to be a staff. I stayed there for 3 years. And I remember even in those moments making $7.65 an hour. I think they bumped me up to $9 like 6 months before I left or a few months before I left. I remember the enemy, the world coming at me like, look at you, man. You were making more than this, freaking scraping floors. Like, is this what it looks like serving God? You're doing everything right and you're making $7.65 an hour and you're riding a bicycle and I'm not going to lie, but like, because I built a relationship with God, I brought those to him. Like, Lord, what's up with that? And he's like, hey, this is my bubble. Are you happy? Well, yes. Do you feel free? Yes. When's your last trouble? I haven't had any. What are you complaining? You know what I mean? Yeah. So like having that self-revelation, and I believe that's what God does in those relationships, is like gives you the ability to sit down, have a conversation with him, to self-reflect on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what am I bickering about? I'm fed. My kid's doing great. I get to see my kid. She loves me. My family's excited. I'm changing lives. I got my first car after that, a little Toyota Camry. Okay. You put more oil in it than gas. You know what I'm saying? But I loved it. And it was like experiencing that relationship and going, I can find peace in this.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, every time I'm good with what I got, he levels me up.
Yeah. Every
time I look around and I'm like, because even recently, man, with my speaking and stuff, he's like, I just want it so bad. I told my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm in a pool and the water's right here. And all I got to do is there and I made it. Yeah. And I just can't get there. I can't get to that.
Yeah.
It's like, and she's like, you're obsessed. Like, stop being obsessed. And like, I get a call. I don't want to break it out. I get a call, one of these huge events, big events. Gary, all these people been on stage. Dude's calling me later on today to book me on for the stage. So it's like, it's like, man, I just sometimes got to be present.
Yeah.
And and it goes back to those basics when I first built my relationship with God. What's the basics, bro? Be happy with what you got, you know? So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's great. I mean, that's kind of, that's a good point, because I think a lot of times, going back to even like God's timing, like it doesn't always look, I think that's probably like, just like, if you're speaking from like a Christian standpoint, like it's never going to always ever be like, I mean, the Bible's full of examples of like, like Joseph, that's one of my favorite Bible studies, but like, there's so much to learn there, but I mean,
David was anointed king and then was out in the wilderness till he was 30.
Yeah. And there's a series on, gosh, it's gonna kill me. I'll have to send it to you. Something, The Life of David or King, something on Netflix. No, it's on Amazon Prime, and it's about David, and it leads up to episode 1, but it leads up to him and the Goliath. But it starts off where like he's frustrated, like to his dad, like let me go and all this different stuff. But it's a really cool. It's kind of like The Chosen.
Yeah.
It kind of told from that perspective, but it's King David from like a little boy up to like when he fights Goliath and kind of how all that works. Cool, and it's very good if you're into that kind of stuff. But I mean, the journey is just never I don't know. The journey is just never what you think it's going to look like.
Right.
But,
and that's where all the growth happens.
Yeah. So when did you get into like your construction? So, I know this, but for the audience sake, I don't know all the answers to this, but I know, you've been in construction, you talked about it in and out. So eventually you get out of this rehab, this program that this thing that you're in, and you get into like where you move back to Naples and kind of take us from there.
Yeah, man. So, me and my wife known each other when we were kids, but she finally was going to start letting me date her and stuff of that nature. So I'm like, all right, it's time for the real world, right? So I got a job painting, right? $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And like, again, humble myself. I really felt the Lord say I was supposed to go serve this guy. And that's what I did. And I learned a lot of lessons serving him. And so me and my wife got married. And I was just the best employee that I could possibly be. And I was just painting and running his crews and creating systems and processes that he didn't use, but we won't get into that. But I remember walking up to him. I told my wife, I'm like, man, I'm ready to go out on my own. Like, I was hustling on Craigslist and stuff like that, like all the extra stuff. I talked to him, like if there was extra lights or furniture, like I was like, hey, let me sell all this and we'll split it. So like I had a little side hustle.
Yeah.
So like I was like, man, I'm ready to go out on my own. So I had a conversation with him and I was like, hey man, you need to let me sell for you. You're not using me to my fullest capacity. I think I was 28 at the time, about to be 29. And he looked at me and he said, John, there's one face to this business and you're looking at it. And I looked at him and says, well, I'll do my best not to be your competitor. And that was it. And but before that conversation, I called my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to have this conversation. How much money we got in the bank? And at the time, we were counting noodles,
Yeah, sure.
And she said 400. And I was like, if this doesn't go good, this guy, Larry West, was going to let me use his license. I was like, this doesn't go good. You good? She's like, yeah. I was like, I'm good with jumping. She's like, jump.
Yeah.
And so the conversation didn't go well. So I hung up with her. She's working. She's an escrow agent, but the lady that raised her and taught her how to be an escrow agent and all that stuff and a title agent had passed away, and her son took over, and he was a contractor / escrow agent. So he was doing this big project, and his painter just walked off the job that day, bro.
Whoa.
So she's telling him the story. Yeah, my husband's about to quit his job. And he goes, what does he do? And she's like, oh, he's a painter. He's like, tell him I could use him tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So literally, she calls me and goes, I got you your first job, which was a banging job. He paid me $25 an hour.
Which you were at 12.
Which I was at 12. And actually, I was at 15 at the time. He bumped me up to a whole 15. But I needed 4 guys. So I gave 3 other guys 15 and gave the other guy 20. So I was making 5 off of him and 10 off the other. So I was making 35 off of them plus my 25. So that was my first hustle, and that was a 7-month job.
Wow.
That gave me the ability to go out and build relationships and do what I needed to do, man. So that's kind of how it started, man. I mean, that's how. And then the guy that let me use his license, seeing the ability that I had, he was like a father to me. And he brought his son on, and we started Innovative Design Solutions. And then I was their partner for 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, it seems crazy to the first guy, just because. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I'm somewhat of a contractor in a different obvious different business, but you seem like you'd be a good salesman,
Yeah.
And so it's like it's crazy. I'm like, I don't know about you. I know in your business, like, man, I would love to have a guy like me going out there. I was like, I would pay him as much as I possibly could, because I'm like, so it's crazy.
I know he watches me now and kicks himself in the butt, but it was part of God's plan too. I mean, God, and even my partnership went really bad. It went really bad. They were like father and son to me. I did my best to, become part of their family. There's still some wounds there.
Sure.
But I believe God wanted to show me a lot of things. There's lessons that I learned that can only be taught through those pains.
Yeah.
Now that I consult and coach, when people want to talk about partnerships, man, I know how to draw that out, how to set expectations, how to sit down and write questions out, ask them how they feel about this, ask them about that. And then a lot of times those partnerships never come together because I know how to ask right questions to see where that partnership's actually going to go. Because I've been there.
Another example of trials and tribulations and stuff. Yeah, partnerships scare me. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty valuable because you always, things are great when everybody's excited, but what happens when this happens,
what happens when the money starts coming in?
Yeah.
And you're working 90 hours a week and he's at home at 4:30 with his kids on the floor and your wife's threatening you with divorce. Those are some real things that happened. I'm out here trying to build a brand, getting threatened with divorce, saying things to my wife I'm not proud of, while he's at home kicking the bobo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like we're both got the same paycheck.
Yeah, that's tough.
I was just talking to someone the other day about a partnership. I said this is what it needs to be. Like if let's say you're the CEO, right? Like, let's say, what's your company, Bright?
Paradise Lights.
Paradise Lights. So you bring on you're the CEO. So let's say the CEO makes, let's call it $150 a year, right? That's the base salary for a CEO.
Sure.
Well, then you got a partner that wants 50-50. He's going to invest, but he's going to be the operations manager. He's going to run the guys. Well, that foreman, let's call him a foreman, that only pays $85,000 a year. So you need to recognize if the profits are split 50-50, but the work that you're giving in, we can't be the same.
Yeah.
I'm carrying the burden, the payroll, the sales, the marketing, all this, the CEO stuff. You got to tell a guy to get on that roof and show to that. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of partnerships fall apart.
Yeah.
They're like, we're all going to pay ourselves $125 a year or $130 a year, and then we'll split profits. Well, that position is an office manager position. That's a $60,000 position.
Yeah.
Why am I paying you $120 for $60,000? But these are conversations people don't have.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And when you start having them like that, people are like, well, if I'm not going to make with you, I don't want to be a partner. Well, peace, love,
better to know it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I want to get to that part of your story. I want to thank today's sponsor, Paradise Lights, for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking for some outdoor landscape lighting lights, pool cage lights, or even Christmas lights, they'll take great care of you. Give them a call at 239-312-3032, and you can find them at paradiselightsfl.com. So, you're learning all this stuff. I know this because I know who you are, and we've talked before. You do consulting and stuff like that. But when did your business, Huffman Construction is the name of, how did that, when did that, because I know you've had ups and downs with that, and now you're kicking butt, but I know, again, even in that, you've been down, been up, and that's inspired me even as another business, trying to learn sort of my own journey of business and growing and stuff like that.
So part of the failed partnership, we were just talking about partnership, and again, there's 3 sides to every story, right? And if you got 3 partners, there's 9 sides, right?
Yeah.
So again, they're not here to defend themselves, so I won't go deep. But the way that John Huffman felt, this is the way that I felt.
Yeah.
I felt that I was the face, I was the brand, and I put on the burden, right? Maybe in their defense, they just, let the fire burn. Maybe they didn't have to care as much. I don't know. But it got to a place where I was neglecting my family.
Yeah.
And I said, man, there's got to be a better way, because Larry was the mentor to me. But I felt like I was outgrowing him.
Yeah.
So I got involved in a mastermind called C12. Okay. And I'm very fortunate. I've been here 6 years now, going on 7, I believe. I'm the youngest by 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And these guys are doing 50, 100 million.
This is something I probably can't get into, kind of a thing.
You can. I think it's a $3 million a year revenue mark.
Gotcha. There's something. Yeah, that's what I meant. There's probably some mark that.
Yeah, you got to hit a mark.
Just some new person can't probably do.
Now, between me and a flagpole, and I'm not. If anybody tries, don't say, "Well, John said on the podcast." If you're determined, there's always an exception.
Sure.
Right. But that 3 million, I think it's 3.5 million threshold that they have in revenue is to deter people that aren't serious.
Yeah.
But long story short, I get it, and I'm just hearing a better way.
Yeah.
And I took that obsession, and I'm like, I want to learn. So I started reading this book called Traction.
Okay.
Right. So then I'm reading the book. So I'm like, who else is reading this book called Traction?
Yeah.
So I go on LinkedIn. I'm like, start looking for people, consultants. And I run into this dude named Bryce Lawrence, who's my partner now.
Yeah.
And so me and him start kicking it. He's a world champion, freaking Muay Thai kickboxer. Dude's freaking amazing.
Yeah, he looks like he can whoop some butt.
Oh, dude, he'll murder people. But so me and him start talking, and then I'm like, you know Blake Becker?
Yeah.
So Blake's like one of my first clients. So I go into Blake and I'm start giving Blake everything that I'm learning. I got a year and a half of this knowledge, and every time I bring it to my partners, they're like, you know what I mean? They're doing it, but it's like, it's because John, and I was the president, so they kind of had to. But then I'm doing it to Blake Beckers and all these young guys, and I'm watching them prosper.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling my hair out. I'm like, this joker's got more cash flow in his bank than me and does half.
Yeah.
And he's doing what I'm telling him to do.
Yeah.
And so then this is kind of manipulation. Lord forgive me for this. So I talked to Bryce. I go, hey, I'm going to hire you to come into Innovative.
Yeah.
They don't need to know we know each other.
Yeah. Okay.
And I want you to separate this sales, marketing, operations, finances, and we're going to create what I should have created in the beginning.
Yeah.
And we're going to create these expectations, and we're going to create these job descriptions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had to go, I'm letting go. We all agreed this is my job description. This is your job description. This is your job description. So when they would call me about their job description, hey, that's yours. We all get paid the same. Do what you want, homie. And I seen my business, we were doing really well revenue-wise, but operational, and it was a mess. But I seen the decline, so that's when I kind of made the decision. I could see the writing on the wall that I had to make the hardest decision of my life at that time, until the guy that I looked up to more than anything in this world, that individual, like I looked at him like a father.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have one. And then the hardest part is when I had that conversation, I seen that there was no more relationship. There was no more phone calls. There was no more reaching out. It is what it is. I put expectations on him that he didn't ask for.
Sure.
He never asked to be like my dad.
Yeah.
He never, I put all that on him,
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it hurt. But then, I did what God intended in the beginning. Me and my wife teamed up, bro, and man, we pulled ourselves out of $1 million in debt.
Yeah, I heard that.
I'm not trying to brag, bro, but my business is, we're on the track to do a little over 10 million this year.
Whoa.
We've already sold like 3.7 this month. If the 2 contracts I signed this month, I'll have a $3.6 million month this month.
Nice.
So it's like God's just showing out. I got me, my wife, my daughter, and one super. There's 4 of us in a place about this size.
Yeah.
I'm running lean, mean,
That's good.
And I'm doing everything the big boys are doing.
Yeah.
Same stuff because I've learned these processes and systems. I got around people that have been there, done that, told me not to do it. And those hurts and pains. And the best thing about like coaching that I've learned is Wednesday's my call. I'm about to stare at 30 other entrepreneurs that are like you.
That's cool. That's cool, though.
You're going to catch me in some bull crap. If I come have something, I'm like, man, John pulling that out of his old booty right there.
Yeah.
So I have to come correct.
Yeah.
I got 30 other entrepreneurs. We're not talking about just Joe Schmo. We're talking about people that run businesses that are listening to me and looking at me and paying me.
Yeah, expecting to come
They're
away with
something. So in that, I'm constantly learning. Like, and I'm holding myself accountable because I can't teach it. It's like preaching. I can't teach it without preaching it. I can't preach it without walking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that's kept me sober for all these years, making sure that I'm always preaching at St. Matt's Teen Challenge, my ministry every Friday night. I have no choice but to get in my word. Yeah. I got to go stand up in front of people and give a sermon.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that happened, man.
Yeah, and I and I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I've had a lot of people tell me that your coaching group is really good. Like They get a lot from it, and they're like, why don't you join it? And I was like, man, I swear I'm going to. It's like, this year, just on my own business, I started, I started with a marketing plan, and I'm trying to commit to it. I paid for some coaching, not similar to this, but like more individual for like landscape lighting. Mm-hmm. And it's been good. Like I've learned a lot from it, but it's like some point, like I get into like the biggest issue that I have not to turn this podcast about my business.
No,
I'm not trying to get free consulting here, but I'm going somewhere with it. But like I get to season, I've only been in Naples for 4 years. So Naples, I know for us, I get slow every year. And so I'm always trying to figure out, okay, how do I keep May, June, July? And we start getting into Christmas lights, August, September. So it's like, but it's like, it's always trying to get to that point. But I was like, next year will probably be on my radar. Cause like I said, I'm not going to do what I did. You try things and this worked, that didn't work. I got my money's worth out of it, but I wouldn't do it again. Yeah. But I've heard a lot of people say great things about it.
The best thing that I've ever did was, get on masterminds and pay for groups. I mean, I've paid Myron Golden and Russell Branson. I've paid all those guys. There's times where you look at it and you go, man, I just paid $3,000 and that's that. Like, that's it. Yeah. But it's like you apply that one nugget that you think that's it, but the ROI on that one nugget in a 3-year span is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it immediate.
It does. Yeah. So that's something I teach people in consulting too. Is like if you're looking, and I'll say it, like I'm not Grant Cardone, I'm not those guys. I mean, they'll get you signed up, get your credit card check, and whatever, however you're paying them, and then you find out what you find out. I will not promise you 10x. Yeah. I won't promise you all this, but what I will promise you is transformation. And I will promise you to give you all that I've got. And in the process of that, you're going to change. And the ROI is going to happen, but it's not going to happen overnight. And what I've learned too is you don't want an ROI to happen overnight. Organics is the best way to create an ROI because what happens is, and you've seen it in life, man, you've seen people that gain something their character cannot withstand. Yeah. So it's like I say this in the drug addict world. You give someone $1,000 in the addict world, you might have murdered them. You might have killed them. Yeah. You give a young entrepreneur $10 million, you'd have gave me $10 million at 28. I might have relapsed. Oh yeah. Who knows what I might have did? Yeah. Right. So sometimes the ROI organically is because God's creating the character that He wants you to become, so that you attract what you can actually withstand.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that 100%. You know. There's so many things I look back at even in my own, like, why'd I have this stupid job? And I mean, just stupid stuff. And you're like, man, I use that so much. Yeah. I was a carpenter for 7 years. My dad was a trim carpenter. And I did that and I was good. I was really needy. But dude, when I opened my gym in Kansas City, we did several remodels and I did all the work. And I'm like, dude, that saved me. I mean, I don't know what it would have cost for you to come in, but I'd probably saved myself $100,000.
Think about the critical thinking skills of a carpenter that you still use today.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you're using critical thinking skills all the time. Angles, common sense. The common sense you learn in a construction site. Yeah. You're applying that everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just had my son. It's a high school kid, and his buddy come in and want to do some work, when they're in between they work. My son works at a golf course and doesn't work 5 days a week. And so I've been trying to give him some work. And just recently we put up the TV in the studio and you know how a drill, right? Yeah. You put a drill. And for those of you guys that don't know, you put a drill, you don't realize trying to put that into a stud is not easy with one hand. And I can remember my dad teaching me this. When I put when it's that you can't put right now flips. I can put a nail, I can just put it into the drywall and go in with one arm. But it's cool, even though these kids are probably stronger. I don't know if they're stronger than me, but they couldn't do it, and then I did. I'm like, I'm like old man strength, baby. But it's just reps. But man, it's crazy to see, kind of. It's weird. I don't know. It's kind of a reflection thing, but I don't know where was I going.
I apply all that, man. Even me being a laborer in those beginning years, because I wanted to be a carpenter. I didn't want to be a broom pusher. So I became the best broom pusher you ever had. Because when I came in and said, what do you want next? And they're like, did you do it? And they would find other little things and little spots to make me redo. Yeah. I became so good at it that they couldn't find nothing but teach me. But even now, that cleanliness is carried on to Huffman's Construction. That is one of my biggest things. I always tell people, when a client walks on a job, you can have the best carpentry in the world. If that job's dirty, all they're going to do is judge you on that.
Yeah.
You can have mediocre carpentry on that job, but if they walk on a spotless job, they're going to call you and tell you how amazing nice your crew is.
Yeah.
Right? So what we think is the least important job on the construction is the most important job. So we take that and we apply that to life, right? What is the outward looking? If they care about how they sweep the floor, then they care about the trim, they care about the drywall, they care about the lights. It's common sense. So it's like, now I take that and apply it to every area of my life.
Yeah.
How I show up matters.
Yeah.
Because ultimately I'm being judged on how I show up and how I look and how I present, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's the sweeping the floor was a blessing for me.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, I remember doing the same thing when I started in construction too. So like, I mean, sweeping floors, yeah, after rough-ins and stuff, and I was like, it's like all of a sudden, that just I feel like that just makes, that's probably why you're an entrepreneur and so am I. It's just like you kind of think differently. But so when does John Speaks come into this? I mean, okay, so your business is you lean it out. You're cruising. You're starting to see, okay, you're not upside down anymore. You're booming. Mm-hmm. You've kind of done a little bit of speaking. It sounds like even kind of before you were like a speaker. But how do you get into like, really kind of what you're doing, which is another aspect of your business, and really what I know you for, as far as our first interaction, is John Speaks.
So I've been preaching ever since Teen Challenge. So every Friday night I've preached for the last 16 years or 13 years, every Friday, faithfully, maybe 48 or 45 minimal weeks out of the year.
Wow.
So I've been putting in reps for a long time.
Yeah.
I've been going faithfully to Teen Challenge once a month for the last 13 years. David Lawrence Center, those places. And the enemy always told me, like, this is something I never shared, is that your project is like, your message is only for them.
Yeah.
And when I say them, I meant like the lesser, like the guy that I'm insecure about. Like, I don't want people to look at me as he's a drug addict. I used to be so scared. I remember the first time I posted a before and after picture, and I was scared. It's like, what if a client sees that? And I remember God saying, who puts food on your plate, me or them?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to say my story, right?
Yeah.
So one day I'm like, man, I was a terrible husband in my entrepreneurship. Like, I'm not going to lie, bro. I'm 0 to 100. If you like, I am. So I'm also that with my temper at times, right? And I neglected my kids. I was barely there to tuck them in, only to be hurt by the people that I put expectations on that didn't ask me to put expectations on. So I like went through this whole journey of, if you looked at me, you're like, this guy's successful. He's got the boat. He's got the $1 million house. He's got the pool. But I'm like falling apart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just like I don't want someone going through that addiction that I went through and like letting them know they're worthy and they can do better, I felt the same thing for the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because like both of my ministries were birthed out of pain. My one ministry is addiction, helping those get out of addiction, life control use. Now my new ministry, John Huffman Speaks, it's a ministry. When you hang out with me, it takes a minute, but you realize this guy's discipling me.
Yeah.
He's not coaching me. I'm discipling him.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm like, I want to see the transformation here. So both of my ministries were birthed out of pain.
Yeah.
And just giving back. And what I realized was my message is the same message. And they're received the same by both business people that are wealthy and successful or on their way to be, and those who are broken. It penetrates them the same. But the wealthy and the business side and the entrepreneur would never come to the harvest to hear the message. But they'll come to a business coaching class. They'll come to a meeting.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the same message. And I used to believe that that message was only good for this. So I'm sitting on the back porch and I'm wanting to start speaking and I'm putting stuff out there. No one's reaching out to me. And I'm like, man, they know I can speak. And I hear God say to this. It wasn't like an audible voice, but I just know it was God.
Yeah.
I've gave you the talents. I've given you the resources. Who are you waiting on?
Yeah.
And I literally get out. I'm trying to tear up a little bit. Literally get out of my seat on my back porch and I go to my wife and I go, hey. And she's like, what? I was like, I'm going to do an event. I'm going to be a speaker. And she's like, what? And I'm like, 420. We're going to do it on 420 where everybody's smoking pot. Yeah. We're going to do it on that day. And I just jumped off the mountain and built the plane on the way down. I called Ben Vila, who's my media guy. I got a couple people, and I just started marketing it. And I was shooting at the Ladies Players Club. I was shooting for 50 people. If we got 80, it was success.
Yeah.
Did 139 people.
Wow, first one?
Very first event.
Wow, dude. That's crazy.
Bro, the craziest part was John Huffman, taught the whole day. It was like every time the guy would introduce, it was just me he was introducing. Yeah. And I taught like all my processes and systems. And long story short, I beat up my critic. But the last part was like when it was really me, not the teacher, John, because I was trying to like prove myself and seem smart up there. You know?
Yeah.
But I got most of the acclimates on just being me.
Yeah.
And the storytelling and the,
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of realized, wow, this thing's going to work.
Did you, because I think if I'm just being honest, like I kind of got something of that in me, but I think that, when I hear that, and I don't know if maybe the audience, if there's always somebody like, do they, you feel like sometimes like, okay, well, I mean, I don't have this crazy story. It's kind of like a testimony, right? Like you think like, oh man, I got, like sometimes kids are like, are raised in a good home and go to church and they got saved when they were little, and they're like, oh, what was your testimony? Like, well, I was, my mom said a prayer with me when I was 11 at our house. And, ever since then I've loved Jesus, and it's like, it's not like, man, I was on the rocks. I had a gun to my head and I was like Jesus and all this stuff. Is like, sometimes, and I mean, not that I have crazy stuff that I can, I don't feel, I guess when I hear your story, I'm like, man, it's nothing like that. It's no, like I can't get on stage, but it's like, how do you get that courage? I guess is what I'm trying to, long story to say like, hey, I'm going to be able to do this. And like, are you fighting like the enemy, Satan, kind of like you don't have a place to be speaking unless you're just speaking to addicts. I mean, I couldn't go in and speak to addicts and probably reach them like you could. You know what I mean? So, I mean, in that so the same way you feel was the same way I felt, right? On the opposite side, like, who wants to hear this? That's embarrassing. And you know what I mean? So again, it's the same inner critic. Yeah. Just a different person. He's just whispering something different to you. That's it. Yeah. So, and I teach this on my coaching call because I'm big on identity. I'm really big on identity. Because I think once we figure out who we are in Christ and we adopt our identity and we're bold in it, it doesn't matter anymore because there's someone that needs to hear Cory's story. There's people that's going to connect with you that aren't going to connect with me. The ones that maybe there's people out there that can't stand John Huffman. You'll run into them. Oh, that freaking loud guy. He's always this, always Jesus that. Like, oh, I wonder what he really, whatever. I'm loud and I'm obnoxious sometimes. It's just the truth. That's true. So there's always, it's just be you and you'll attract what it is. I teach this too. It's like, look, discipline creates habits. Habits create character. Character's who you attract, right? And a lot of times people are never their true character because they're never authentic themselves because they're always thinking they have to be something else to attract somebody else. So they never fully adopt their own identity and they draw in who they are. I mean, if you told me that I'd be on a podcast and you'd be thanking John Huffman, I'm like, it's even weird that you would thank me because it's like, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel like I should be thanked for anything. I have to defeat that guy all the time, you know? So it's like, nah, man, I just learned for me, because God has proven it to me, if I'm just my authentic self, just be me. And he'll do the rest of it, man. Yeah. And someone needs to hear your story. I mean, think about it. I mean, just hearing you already. Dude, 4 years, you've been in Naples. You started a gym in Kansas City, did the remodel, took that entrepreneur, brought it to Naples. 4 years, you're already crushing it, got a shop, got a studio. Bro, that's a story. Yeah. That's not, you're a 1%er, bro. Yeah. Nobody's leaving their hometown and going to some town they don't know, already got a business, shop, podcast, growing, trucks, not to blow your head up, but bro, that's awesome. That's a story. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, I guess when you say it like that. And listen to this. There's some people that will not listen to me if they hear my first part first because automatically they think they can't connect with me. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Where she was like, no, I connect with Cory. Like, that makes more sense. Like, he had good parents and got in trouble. That was me. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you're right when you say that. Because I think sometimes like there's even some of my son's friends, for example, like some of them like, yeah, just whatever. But like, there's always like one or two of them that like, you can tell they like you for some reason. And you're like, it's almost like if I'm going to go in to this, business, and I'm going to speak to 50 entrepreneurs, even if there's 5 of them that like, then I'm speaking to the 5, even though I'm speaking to the 20, there's 5 here that are going to leave and their life's going to be changed or their business is going to be changed or, I don't know, an addict, something like that. Like, I'm maybe not going to get them all because some of them aren't ready.
Right.
But the ones that who are supposed to hear the message, and that's where you just kind of got to let God, like, hey man, I'm just here. And I tell people, the one thing I will say about business or whatever is I'm just willing. I'm not smart. I told you before, I was like, a lot of times I just go, I don't know, man, I'm just a Christmas light installer. Like I ain't smart. I wasn't like, but I'm just willing to put myself out there. And, you're right. Not everybody's like that, but
there's a lot of smart people that are on the couch right now watching Netflix that ain't got crap, bro, but they can be really smart.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what is smart? I've said that my whole life, and I had a friend of mine, Jesse. He's the leader, was the worship leader at New Hope Ministries. He beat me up one time. Literally, him and Bryce both like, I never want you to say that out of your mouth again. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I used to always say, well, I'm not that smart. I used to say it from the pulpit. I'm not that smart. And I would give God glory in that. Like, man, so I'd say something. I'm like, man, I ain't that smart. But it's like, no, God is giving you that. That's yours to have. You know what I mean? And so I've tried to take it out of my vocabulary because, bro, like I said, man, who's gauging smart? Because my brother's an attorney. He's also got $200,000 in debt, and I probably make a few $100,000 more a year than him. You know what I'm saying?
But who's counting?
Who's smarter? So if you want to look at it like that, who's smarter? If you want to sit down and have an intellectual conversation, my brother's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
You want to laugh and giggle and talk trash? You hang out with your boy.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably where I'm gonna go. I'll be honest. I'm like, no, probably not gonna enjoy the talk with him, and that's maybe different strokes for different folks. But
I'll tell you, being a part of that mastermind, there's some of the biggest attorneys in Naples that are in that mastermind. There's a construction. There's one guy that owns a construction business. I think he did 180 million last year. His 180 million. Could you imagine? That's like 3 million a week in payroll.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? Like what we do all year, he does in a week.
Yeah.
But there's so many different flavors at that table. And I've learned from so many of them. Like one of the attorneys, there was one time it was do we got time?
No, you're good. Yeah, we're good.
There was one time he was about to let this guy go. Or we bring issues and he's talking about the issues. And this guy's making about $240,000 a year. But he's not doing what he's supposed to do. So me, being a young boy, I was like, man, he's got to go.
Yeah.
You show him if he. So then he goes, yeah, but if you think about it, if I have to do his job, it's going to take me about 16 hours a week, maybe 17, which takes away from this. Long story short, he sat there and they worked through it in his mind, and he realized that the 16 hours it was going to take him to do his job would take him away from what he was supposed to be doing, which ultimately would have cost him more money than the 240 that the guy was doing.
Wow.
So then we sat at the table and we all came up with a strategic plan that lasted a year, how to phase him out and phase somebody in.
Yeah.
But he was so wise to stop and really do the math on what it was going to take him to lose that guy. And at the time, even though the guy was being a butthole, taking advantage, and for lack of better terms, robbing him, it still made more sense to keep him.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting back there and going, I got to start thinking like this.
Yeah.
Because my mind was rash.
Yeah, sure.
He's right. He's doing right. He's got to go. Period.
Yeah.
It's like, then they're playing chess, not checkers, man.
Yeah.
These guys are thinking outside the box. And I've done ever since, and I've done it with my subs and things like that. I'm like, okay, this is what happened. Okay, now I know. Trust a liar to lie, a thief to thief, right? A thief to steal. But if you know who they are and you can use them on your board properly, trust them to be who they are. If they lie to you and you believe it, that's your own fault for believing a liar is going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
But don't cut your face off to spite yourself. So it's like being around people like that has just really changed my thinking, bro.
Yeah, that's That's good. Yeah, that's true. I've actually heard some other people use that same kind of, like, because I'm a little bit more like, you're like, nope, I'm the boss here, you know, like, you got, and sometimes you're like, oh, wait, crap, like, I'd have to do that
now
thing.
I got to go hang
I've said that before too, like, hey, don't think I can't put the pouches back on, and then I'm like, but I don't want to. Like, that's not good for the business if I'm out stringing Christmas lights at this point. It's not good for anybody.
Nobody.
But anyways, well, I want to. We have a segment called the brighter side. I want to get into. I want to get into that, which is kind of just some kind of questions. If you don't have the answer to them, because some of them are kind of deep. So, first off, this is just off the cuff, but like, where do you see John Huffman going? Like, what's your plan in a year? Like, what's the goal? Where are you trying to go with? I mean, is he wanting to grow John Speaks? What's your dream? Like, what's the big one?
So, I mean, Huffman's Construction has been the vehicle for everything, right? So I'm praying one of my kids takes it, or like I have a key player that, you know, wants to take some equity on. Maybe that kid that comes up to me and goes, "Hey, you're not using me enough," kind of how I did to that guy.
What you're gonna say? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But this is what I love doing, is speaking and uplifting and teaching and coaching. God gave me a vision of 1 million entrepreneurs running their businesses, ministries. And I know that that's coming to fruition. I want it tomorrow. And, you know, we did Mind Your Business 2, and there was like 520. It was a pretty big event. Yeah. And I wanted so much more from it. And God really humbled me because I didn't make the money that I wanted to make. I didn't sell the coaching I wanted to sell. And it didn't springboard the way that I thought it was going to springboard. And then I started getting texts from other people. Hey man, my friend was at the event. He knew I was there. Check out this text message. Hey man, I apologized to my dad after 10 years. Yeah. Hey man, I haven't smoked weed or done this since the event. Like all these testimonies of like, they went to a business event and their lives are, you know, so I was like, that's the currency, that's the fruit. So right now I'm just in a place, man, where I told you, I just want to be organic. You know, I want it, but I want to be grateful for what I have right now. And God is giving me a lot of cool things, and that's just where I'm at. But I would like to be changing the world in the next 5 years is what I would like.
That's cool. Yeah, it's kind of scary to put that out there, though. You know, it's kind of scary to say, hey, I want to speak on stage, and I want to be. I mean, I kind of. Like, I'm scared to even say that, even though I kind of like, there's some part of me that's like, I don't know why I want to do that. Cause I mean, I'm not afraid to speak, but, but anyways, no, I always like to kind of find out, like, cause I think putting your dreams out there is also, I mean, there's somebody that can change that can make your dreams come true. Kind of like we were saying, like, you know, if Joe Rogan comes on here, you know, like my life's probably going to change or whatever, or your life, you know, if you go on his show or whatever, so there's always somebody that could just change your life, like which is kind of crazy.
Amen.
But so on the brighter side, the thing I want to ask you is, what's something that you've recently learned that's changed the way you think or live?
Recently learned. Well, I mean, I think kind of piggyback off of what I'm saying, man, is like. The Mind Your Business 3, I put so much chips on that. Like Huffman's Construction took a hit that I haven't seen in a long time. So it made me reprioritize and like practice what I preach, you know, schedule what matters. So like I'm like, all right, one big event a year, 3 workshops, and that's it. Yeah. Until Huffman's is running without me. So like that's something that's changed me too. So that big event, kind of, I guess that was like the all factor right there. Yeah, now that we just said it, you kind of pulled it out of me. I didn't even realize that's kind of
like that aha, like, all right, there was something good that did come from it and maybe it's like you said earlier that you got a call that you might be jumping on. I mean, dude, that's what's crazy is it could be something that comes, you go do that. If it works out, you go do that, something changes. And all of a sudden, I can't get a hold of you on Facebook anymore because you're too busy, you know, or whatever.
No, never that. But I'll tell you what, like, building the events is a lot different than just getting invited to speak. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into those workshops and those events. I mean, a lot. So, I mean.
It doesn't look, I don't mean to make it seem like I thought that was easy.
But I'm saying, like, if I go to speak where me and you were talking about, if this works out, and hopefully I talk to him right after this call, I'm just getting on a plane, go there, do my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anyways, I pray it works out.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Like, I'm rooting for you. Like, I genuinely am. Man. Like, I really am. Like, I think, yeah, when you're somebody that kind of like, it's like it gives you hope. Like, it's like, you know, man, if it's not like if he can do it, I can do it, you know? And it's like, the more that's one thing I love about even just podcasting is just being able to like sit down with somebody and like legitimately, you know, have a real conversation. So, okay. Next question. Finish the sentence. The brighter side of my story is
Jesus, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That could be this one word, mic drop.
Yeah, man.
Changed it all.
He did.
What's this isn't on there, but this is something I wanted to ask you, and I'm more worried about the time, but this is going so authentic. What as a Christian man, like what's one thing you think that we're getting wrong? You know, like as a dad, as a business owner, what you know, there's so much in the world right now, like, you know, be masculine and all this stuff, and you gotta like do this challenge and that challenge, and you know, all this
transparency. I think we fell as Christians, we're not transparent. I think I believe fully that we believe once we represent and say the word I'm a Christian. A lot of people won't even admit they're Christians or say they're followers of Jesus because they're embarrassed to, because they think that they don't stand up. And the fact of the matter is, you're not supposed to. Yeah. It's impossible. You can't do it. Stop trying. And I think the pastors struggle. That's why we got divorce in the church. The pastors struggling with pornography, divorce. You got pastors on their third, fourth wives. And the reason that is because they think they got to hide it all and not be transparent. Like, I'm a Christian, I'm a leader now, and I got my stuff together. Same as a coach. I have no problem telling them my struggles in my business, because I want them to know, just because you know doesn't mean you know, right? Or doesn't mean you're walking it out. I know how to lose weight. I still eat the damn donut. I know the donut ain't good. So I think in the church, like, my heart is transparency, because I think there's a lot of people that think they can't follow Christ because of what they think the image of a follower of Christ is.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's just a question that I've been really wrestling with, and I wanted to ask you. That was something that was on my list. So I'm glad that I did, even though I pushed it for time. Okay. When life gets heavy, last question. When life gets heavy, what brings you back to the brighter side?
Man, I got to give it to my wife, you know what I mean? And my kids, you know, and sometimes, you know, it's not always daisies there either, right? But just being blessed with her, and knowing that I got a best friend in her, you know, and I can be authentic and real with her. That brings me to the brighter side, you know. Even when we're fighting, I mean, we just got out of like a 3-day fight, you know.
Doghouse.
But you know, it's a beautiful thing, man, because even in that fight, some things got resolved, you know. Some stuff got hashed out. So I just knowing like that's what it's really all about, right? Is that legacy? Real.
Yeah, that's real. I always tell I think it sounds like I'm kissing my wife's butt, but I was just like, she's like my angel. She's like just like that piece. Like, man, your wife's just like somebody that can just be, you know, doesn't always understand me. Quite the opposite of me. Very different. I mean, our personalities are very similar, I think, and we're high strung and we're, you know, high energy, and I'm, you know, I have high testosterone naturally, dude. I'm like anyway, that's a whole other podcast too. But okay, so wrapping up, man, how can people find out about you? Where can they go? I'll have all this stuff in the show notes because I already got it, but tell everybody, you know, what your parting words are.
So where to find me at?
Yeah.
So Facebook, I'm on under John Huffman. Instagram is real John Huffman, and then my website's johnhuffmanspeaks.com.
Okay.
And yeah, man. And listen, like, if for the viewers out there, you matter. You are enough. Just be your authentic self. I promise you're gonna attract exactly what you're supposed to just by being you.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate your time, man, and just you know, being able to share. I mean, we've only met one time. So, you know, sometimes, you know, just being honest when you're starting a podcast and stuff like that, you know, you're reaching out to people and you're just hoping people will give you a shot. So, like, I won't forget that. And that means a lot because, you know, some people, they're not answering, and which is fine. I totally get it. I respect that. But, man, I do appreciate, you know, what you're doing, and just I respect that. And I definitely learned some stuff today. So thanks, I appreciate it. If anything, I took away some good knowledge. And so cool. That's a wrap. Thank you guys for watching episode number 6. We'll see you on the next one.